Welcome back to the Pretty Well podcast. I'm Lisa Smith. Today we are going to have a very exciting conversation. Today I'm joined by Dr. Joe Nieusma. And I'm going to read his intro. You'll know why after I read it. There's so much here. Dr. Joe is a senior toxicologist, and he's with the company Superior Toxicology and Wellness, which is an international scientific consulting firm that he founded. Dr. Joe works in the pharmaceutical, biotech, and medical device industries, almost always on employee or patient safety issues. He's been in toxicology for 37 years, and he specializes in human exposure to drugs, chemicals, biologicals, and other toxins. Dr. Joe has worked with private clients also to help them eliminate unnecessary or redundant drugs that they're taking. And in many cases, it's helped them to significantly improve their quality of life. He has a website for that. I'm going to mention both of them at the end and put them in the show notes. Dr. Joe has worked as an expert toxicologist for human exposure in all kinds of cases. And more recently, he's been involved in human health risk assessment for smoke damaged homes that have been exposed to wildfires, complex water purification issues, and strategies to help the human body withstand the demands of living in today's toxic world through oxidative and antioxidative means. This is going to be a fascinating conversation. Welcome, Dr. Joe.
Thanks for having me, Lisa. I really appreciate the chance to be on your show.
You and I were talking off camera a couple minutes ago, and I said this is going to be a multi-episode. We're going to be continuing the conversation.
Hey, I love it. That happens a lot where we talk about the 30,000-foot overview of many different topics, and everybody has their favorite. So I'm always willing to come back and get in the weeds on anything that your listeners want to learn about.
That's great. So let's start at square one. What is a toxicologist, and how did you land here?
That's an easy one. Toxicologist is somebody that studies things that are in your body that shouldn't be in your body. Xenobiotics is the fancy scientific word, which is things that get on board, which should not get on board. And so toxicology is the study of poisons. And obviously, one of the mantras of toxicology is the dose makes the poison, which essentially means things that are exquisitely toxic, if exposure is in low enough concentration, won't hurt you. And the flip side is things that are not considered harmful, if exposed in a greatest concentration, can also hurt you. Good examples of those is like cyanide. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, cyanide's going to kill you. It's a respiratory toxin. It's used very safely in the gold mining industry. Another flip side of that is water. Water's not very toxic, but it's also the mechanism of toxicity for an illicit drug, ecstasy. When somebody overdoses on ecstasy, it causes extreme thirst. And people will literally drink themselves to death, diluting their electrolytes and making their cell-to-cell communications fail, essentially making the water the toxic agent in that cascade. How did I get here?
Yeah.
I was doing biology, chemistry major, pre-med at Central Michigan University. And in the last years of my undergrad, I got a job at Dow Chemical doing registration studies for herbicides and pesticides. So I was working with a bunch of PhDs, and they said, oh, you're going to go to medical school. Okay, well, you should apply to graduate school too as a backup plan. And I said, I don't need a backup plan, but I listened to them. So I applied to 8 med schools and 2 graduate programs. I got into 2 graduate programs.
Glad you had them in your life.
Yeah. So I ended up going to University of Colorado School of Pharmacy, and I studied some really cool stuff. Coming from Michigan to Colorado, you could see the sun in the wintertime. It wasn't gray from November to April. And Colorado climate kept me there for 31 years. So I went to graduate school and I studied the stereochemical aspects of butadiene metabolism and toxicity. Butadiene is a little 4-carbon molecule that is involved in everything that's plastic or rubber. So Dow Chemical gets this stuff by the train car load. And if it's metabolized in a certain manner, it's very, very toxic. And if it's metabolized in a different manner, it's very, very benign. So it was really an exquisite project. It was actually very difficult. When I left, nobody picked it up because they just saw it as beating your head against the wall, and nobody likes to sign up for that.
Right.
So then after graduate school, I applied for the industrial toxicology job at Geneva Pharmaceuticals, which then became Sando, which then became the generics wing for global Novartis. And Novartis is one of the big shots in the pharmaceutical world. So I was the only toxicologist for their global operations in generic pharmaceuticals. The home plant that I was at had 100 products under one roof. And my daily bread and butter was making sure none of the people making those drugs were harmed by their job. So, how much can they be exposed to before there's an increased risk of adverse effects? And make sure that doesn't happen. So it was industrial toxicology and industrial hygiene, and I ran both of those programs. The other half was setting this value called an ADE, acceptable daily exposure. And that's the amount of drug A that can be found in drug B before it's a problem for the end user. Now,
Mm.
think about that. Now, if somebody's very allergic to something, that's going to trigger. But for the most part, you can keep those products separate. There's very good controls on it to make sure that happens, but it's a contingency plan so that we plan for that sort of thing in case something happens. If you can keep a batch, or if you have to throw a batch away, or anything else that ends up in a batch. So it was always my job to justify whether we'd keep a batch or we have to throw it away. So it's always been employee safety or patient safety. And that's why I say, although I did do 27 years in pharmaceuticals, in the pharma industry, I kind of think that I was always a good guy and I didn't have to like take the slime coat off and leave it at the door on my way out of the plant.
I can relate to you. I was a pharmaceutical rep for a while, so I get it. I believe that every step of our journey is very valuable and it helps us on the next steps of the journey because it helps us to have better vision.
And you know what really my years in pharma taught me is drugs are not the answer. 100% drugs are not the answer. And you mentioned my Dr. Joe for Hope program, helping people get off of polypharmacy.
Hmm.
And that is a significant change for people that find themselves on 6, 8, 10, 12 different drugs because they see different doctors, and all doctors do is write prescriptions. I mean, most of today's doctors have zero training in prevention and nutrition and just how to help the body do what it's divinely designed to do, which is heal. And if you remove toxic exposure, and allow the body to do what it is divinely designed to do, you can help yourself. I mean, I can't say that loud enough that I have a very radical perspective that I think most of today's chronic conditions are because of toxic exposure, whether
Mm.
that's environmental, whether that's something in the water, whether it's crappy diet, whether it's something you breathe, whether it's something you choose to inject yourself with because somebody says it's good, all of the above gets lumped into one category marked toxic exposure. And that toxic exposure, if you're really looking for the common denominator, comes down to oxidative stress and inflammation.
Mm. You just said a mouthful.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to be a while unpacking that with that ball of yarn, and we're going there. So, let's start with medical school. My granddad was a surgeon. He went to medical school, if I were to guess, probably in the 20s, and it was a different
Oh,
education.
completely.
It was before Rockefeller was on board into the medical schools. Education
Everything
shifted
changed.
from root cause, which is
Mhm.
what functional medicine is now. That's what doctors used to do. They practice functional medicine. It's not a new
We
concept.
healed people.
They healed people. They did. And my granddad had a little pharmacy in his office. He would compound things for
Weird
people.
compound things
Yeah.
from natural products. He had
Yes.
a respect for years and years and centuries of knowledge. Imagine that.
He did. Well, yes. And beyond that, as you mentioned, we are divinely designed to heal. This body is meant to carry us, our spirit, and our soul through the world and do good, built to heal. So
Here's one.
the medical education and training now teaches very brilliant people to be able to look at a matrix of a person's symptoms and say, ah, this, these drugs will reduce those symptoms. And they're really good at it, but it never gets to the root cause, which then adds fuel to the fire because now we're adding the toxins you mentioned,
Oh,
adding
yeah,
the
absolutely.
oxidative stress. So I am a 1,000,000% with you. But
But have you ever heard of the saying? It's very prominent in the pharmaceutical industry. Today's side effects lead to tomorrow's therapies.
well, it's true where
Think
we
about
get this is where we get the pharmaceutical approach.
Merck's Propecia is a classic. I mean, it was marketed for prostate cancer. During the clinical trials, all these bald guys started growing hair. Today, it's marketed for male pattern baldness. Imagine that.
It's amazing. Yeah, I guess is that not how Viagra also started and so many other drugs being used off label and now they have a new,
I
yeah,
mean, the pharmaceutical companies are very clever because they have drug sales reps and they have a set of rules for drug sales reps that they need to talk on label. They can only talk about labeled things, but they also have something called medical liaisons. And medical liaisons are allowed to talk science
mm,
with physicians and talk about all the other things that these drugs do. Today's side effects lead to tomorrow's therapies. They track this stuff to make sure they're not killing anybody first and foremost, but also to say, well, what else does it do?
mm.
Steroids, for instance. You take steroids for one specific thing. Usually it's to curb inflammation, but steroids can do up to 50 other things in the body. Very powerful substances.
Mhm.
So every single time somebody takes a pharmaceutical product, you're giving it two opportunities: the opportunity to do what you want it to do,
Mhm.
and the opportunity to do everything else that it does. That's all of that quick talk at the end of those drug commercials. I'm very much a proponent of taking drug advertisements off the air.
Absolutely. Every single one of those drug ads says, ask your doctor if this will be right for you. So it's
Yeah.
pushing the consumer where prior to all these advertisements, it pushed the doctor and then they didn't get the impact they wanted. So now they push the consumer with this they promise.
And, a lot of doctors in today's markets are only as smart as the last drug rep that sat across their desk.
Or more convincing, or the one they like.
Unfortunately, if you believe the Bible, and I need to figure out where in the Bible it says this because somebody asked me that and I couldn't answer it. The human body is designed to last about 130, 140 years. The thing that decreases that is environmental exposure.
Mm.
Yeah, that's where we get into toxicity. I mean, it's just the choices we make, whether it's voluntary risk or involuntary risk. Voluntary risk is smoking. You choose to
Mm.
do that. Drinking,
Mhm.
eating a lot of charbroiled steaks, living in a city. It doesn't matter where you live. The air has things that'll get you. The other thing is involuntary risk. What you do for a job and somebody says you got to go in there and do that job.
Mhm.
That's an involuntary risk. And somebody that smokes 4 packs a day will still complain that their job gave them mesothelioma because they were around asbestos.
Yeah.
And that lung cancer is from the job and not their. Those are the gray areas with humans, and people are gonna live in those gray areas forever. But you can do a lot of things to help yourself age less quickly. All about managing inflammation, managing oxidative stress.
We've been given the short answer on how to do that, really, even in the functional medicine world. But let's go back to the dose makes the poison.
Mhm.
So many toxins have been studied, so many, but they haven't been studied in an environment of constant, compounded, low-level exposure. We're getting plastics, water and air pollution, processed food, medications.
Everything you just mentioned is exactly how the human lives, in a soup of toxic exposure. And the big picture when you talk to somebody about, well, we have an occupational exposure limit or a safe limit for this, and it's this much. And actually, I every expert opinion I put in on these fire cases, the guy comes back with the same. This isn't over any threshold limits. The threshold limit is for one agent, not for your
Yes.
combined mixture exposure. And you're talking about, okay, if there was only one being exposed to, yeah, they'll probably be fine. But you know what? They have 10 of them listed, they're all detected. Those 10 and make the top 10 list. And
Mhm.
not only do they have those from the fire, they have the heavy metals and they have the ash and the soot and the char, and everything creates oxidative stress and inflammation. And if somebody is in poor health to begin with, or doesn't have enough rest, or is dehydrated, or is battling something else, all of this comes into play. Toxicology is a very whole picture approach. And you have to look at the whole picture. The way I describe it is if you have 10 things that you're exposed to and they're all going to hurt you, if you eliminate two or three of them, are you better off? The answer is yes. But you still have to manage the entire mixture of exposure. And it's the microplastics and it's the pharmaceuticals in the waterways. You could take a sample from any waterway and most likely find antibiotics or diabetes drugs or birth control hormones in those water samples. They are there because we have the analytical power to detect down to very low limits. But the fact of the matter is, these are very potent drug products that could have potential effects at lower than therapeutic limits. And it's there, it gets on board, it gets in the body. And then it's like, what does the body do with it? Well, that's the whole idea of toxicology. That is, the acronym is ADME: absorption, distribution, metabolism, and excretion. Those are four very complex processes that are under control of the body, but every single human is different in how all four of those processes manage each toxin.
Right.
If you think about it, I try to simplify just to get a better picture. Let's go from our, billions and billions and billions of cell organism down to one cell. All right. Here's Dr. Joe. I'm one cell. So I got a one bucket of cellular defense mechanisms. There's a couple poster childs in there that people have heard of. Glutathione is one. Yeah, everybody's heard of glutathione. And whenever these insults come in, these toxic insults, they take something out of that bucket and eliminate that threat. And as long as there's something in the bucket, you're going to be able to fend off those threats, those things that cause oxidative stress, those things that cause inflammation. And how do you replenish the bucket? Well, that's what we already mentioned. You got to stay hydrated. You have to have a good diet. You have to stay active and you got to get enough rest. Those four, they're very plain and simple things that everybody should be doing in their life. And if you do that, then you will have enough in your bucket to fend off a lot of this inflammation. If you don't, then you need things like, what's the best poster child for antioxidant? Vitamin C. That's one of the best things people can do. And there's a little bottle that says take this much. That's a guideline. You could really jack up your vitamin C dose and you can have a lot more antioxidative power. That's what step one could be, is, hey, boost your vitamin C and see if it doesn't make you feel better. There is one other one that's better on the planet than vitamin C. That's carbon 60. Carbon 60 is a wonder molecule that was just recently discovered, and just past the year 2000 or so, Buckminster Fuller got the Nobel Peace Prize on discovering carbon 60. And remember that it was these balls of 60 carbon molecules that are able to pick up hydrogens from the cellular environment, and then they will squelch reactive oxygen species and oxidative stress chemically rather than biochemically like glutathione or vitamin C have to do. So that's why carbon 60 is so much better, is it's a chemical process. It's kind of like having a machine gun versus a flintlock musket that you have to stop and reload and get all your cofactors and take your shot and then do it again.
So what it's doing is it's basically acting as a magnet to the hydrogen ions, which are leading to the oxidative stress. So it's just grabbing them and pulling them out as opposed to going through the biochemical pathways of the vitamin C and the glutathione,
Yeah,
other very potent antioxidants, but
yeah.
they're having to give up electrons and go through the whole process.
So the story behind carbon 60 was, there's this group out of Paris. The guy's name is Baati, Baati. So Google that. And he published a paper in 2012. And the essence of this paper was, we're going to feed rats this carbon 60. They're going to die really fast. And we're going to show the world it's toxic and we can put this thing to bed and there's
Huh.
going to be no problem with it. Well, essentially, the rats didn't die. None of this carbon 60 rats died. Very few of the olive oil, which is what the carbon 60 was in, rats died. All of the control rats died within the regular normal length of time for the rats to have a lifetime. And this study, the people got tired of taking care of the animal colony and stopped the study. But if you go straight conversion, this study showed that carbon 60 use would increase a lifespan by 90% in rats. So if it's a straight 90% to humans, that translates to humans living for about 139 years.
We're back to the beginning.
Imagine that. And
Interesting.
what stops that? It's just that toxic exposure. So that guy was really the first guy that said, all right, I'm going to put a squash on this. And essentially, he blew the lid off of it.
Wow.
And the carbon 60 market, and I got to say this up front, because you're going to Google carbon 60 and you're going to see these hit pieces. It's a very buyer beware market. You
Mm.
will see pieces that say, don't use this. It is toxic. It will hurt you. And the answer to that is that true? Yes. And the reason is two. If you have an impure carbon 60 and there's side chains on those carbons, those side chains can break off and cause side chain toxicity. The second thing is if they process the carbon 60 with solvents, the solvents stay in the product and you get solvent toxicity, which
Mm.
they have talked about, and it is true. So
Mm.
impure carbon 60 and solvents are two things that you need to be very careful of if you go online, because you'll find a lot of carbon 60 products.
Mm.
The one that I like and the one that I have been on their website and done a video as to how it works is from Live Longer Labs. You'll have that website at the end, but it is made with the most pure carbon 60 and no solvents in the processing. And the history of this particular product, the guy that made this product, his mother was suffering from premature dementia.
Oh.
And he read about carbon 60 and saw what it did for these rats. And so he made a formulation of it and took a bunch of it himself to make sure it didn't kill him. And then he gave it to his mom. She regained full mental capacities and lived another 8 full productive years. All he changed was this product. He added C60 to her regimen. And Max was the guy's name. He told me once that his mother recovered so well that she actually became irritating to him before she died.
I love it. As a mother should be at times.
Yeah. And so, in the process of checking the hood of this product, Max had half a dozen of his friends and they did a telomere test.
Mm.
And some people may have heard about that. The length of the telomeres gives you a snapshot of your cellular health and whether or not it can divide or if it's ready to become a senescent cell and just a nutrient sink. So they took a pre-telomere test and then they used this C60 for a month or so and then did another telomere test. And the company that sent them the second test, across the board, all 6 people, they said there must have been something wrong with that test. We don't believe the results. We're going to send you another one. They had all gained significant decreased age in their prediction. So that means their telomeres were a lot longer, a lot more healthy because of taking the C60 product. And it's just when Max was doing this research, there was a handful of articles. Nowadays, if you Google C60 on the medical databases, the National Library of Medicine, you'll get, thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of articles in a half a second.
Wow.
The climate is because Max started this in about 2011-ish or so, right about when that paper came out. Now the big pharma companies have put in a bunch of patents on everything. They're trying to corner and control this market. But Max beat them to the punch and got a couple patents ahead of the game. And Live Longer Labs has multiple options. They have 3 products in oils: coconut oil, olive oil, avocado oil. And then they have 2 gel cap products. They have a black seed oil and the black seed oil with curcumin. The one I like the best is the black seed oil because you get more carbon 60. And black seed oil, Nigella sativa, as anyone in functional medicine knows, is a wonderful natural product in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Max just sent me this and said, what do you think about this? Because he always likes to get an unbiased toxicological perspective. I sent it back and said, this is a great oil. It's a great product. It's got all kinds of beneficial effects for human bodies, tremendous benefits. And then combining the two, it really makes a fountain of youth.
Is there a synergistic relationship between the two, or do they both bring their benefit, or don't we know?
They both bring benefits. It's one of the best vehicles to put carbon 60N because of the benefits of the natural product of the oil itself. So essentially, it squelches your body's inflammation and reactive oxygen species. It levels the playing field so your body wins the daily battle. There's less deleterious effects. And when you eliminate those deleterious effects due to inflammation and reactive oxygen species, you provide a better opportunity for your body to assign resources to where it needs to go for healing. Some excellent stuff. My mom, she's 86, just turned 86 on February 20th. She has 2 knee replacements. The first one she did pre C60. Second one she did after C60. She said the second one was a lot less painful, a lot less pain and swelling, and her rehab went stellarly better with the C60 on board. She doesn't miss a day. She's 86 years old. She still bowls twice a week, drives herself around, lives independently. And she's only been sick maybe 2 or 3 times when some of the other little old ladies sneeze right in her face at bowling.
That's a pretty good testimonial right there.
I got another one. Her name is Dr. Loretta Ivory, and she's happy to talk to anyone about this. Macular degeneration. So it was an irreversible, incurable eye condition, and she had it. She
Yeah.
went to the eye doctor. She had the eye map, the growing spot, and everything else. And she just wouldn't accept the doctor saying, prepare yourself to be blind.
Mm-hmm.
And what she did is she used an oil-based C60 product. And every Sunday, she used a month worth of oil.
Oh, wow.
So every Sunday, she would drink a full bottle of it's like a 3-ounce bottle. So she would take that C60 once a week that's designed for the whole month. So she's on a 4x dose.
Yeah.
But not only did she stop her macular degeneration in its tracks, but she reversed it. And she's got the pictures before and after to prove it. And she still has her eyesight to this day,
Oh, wow.
proving that macular degeneration is just an inflammation-based condition. And if you get in front of the inflammation, wonderful things can happen because our bodies are divinely designed to heal. And if you provide the correct ingredients, the body knows where to allocate those. My sister is another example. In her early 20 years, she had a job at a wildlife preserve working with whooping cranes. It was a breeding program. She contracted Lyme's disease in her 20s, and she is 55 now. And every so often, she gets these Lyme disease flare ups that just are completely debilitating. And she would try everything and try everything and try everything and try everything. Recently, in the last year, I finally got little sister to listen to Big Brother. I mean, I'm her brother. I don't know.
You don't know
No.
anything.
I told her you can combine a 2-prong approach, an oxidative therapy and an antioxidative therapy, and we can knock this thing out. So I gave her my picks. Oxidative therapies are you're oxidizing what should not be there to help your body eliminate it. And then you're using the antioxidative therapy to squelch that reaction.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have both tiers. And oxidative therapies are things like hyperbaric oxygen, ozone, IV ozone, hydrogen peroxide. They're all good. They're all very effective oxidative therapies. Between the oxidative therapy and the antioxidative therapy, my sister, I gave her these things. I said, just try it. She was living on ibuprofen and pain meds. She was crawling out of bed to the bathroom in the morning. She was that debilitated. 3 weeks into the therapy, she said, for the first time in years, I went 2 days without using my pain meds. And then another week later, she said, I still haven't used my pain meds. How significant is that, Lisa? How many people do you know that are beating their head against a brick wall because they have Lyme's disease and all of those chronic effects? Thing for long COVID.
That
These
I was gonna
conditions are
ask
so easy to get after and help.
what I just heard you say, using a two-prong approach of oxidative therapy and antioxidative therapy, is there's a pathogen or multiple pathogens. We basically set them on fire in the body to burn them up and incinerate them. Then we
Mhm.
take an antioxidant then to go put out the fire, basically.
Exactly. And you
Spray
can't
them.
do it at the same time or they fight.
That would just neutralize each other, right? The fire and the water, we eliminate them. Now we got to put the embers out
Yeah.
and to do that.
Same thing for spike protein.
Mm,
Those MDs that are pushing natty kinase mixtures on the commercials, I mean, that's just an oxidative therapy.
it goes in and kind of cleans things up. Tell me about your sister now. How's she doing?
Oh, she's doing great. She's actually back to work full time and she's picking up some more extracurricular activities. And we're probably 6 months out.
Oh, that's
It's
great.
a complete transformation.
That's great. So I have a question for you. When we look at the two-prong approach, this is my guess, but you're gonna have to correct me or put me in the right direction.
I'm guessing you're probably right on.
Okay, if we're gonna do the oxidative therapy first, one, how long do we know to go with that? And two, I'm guessing it's temporary until we achieve our goal. Is that right? Or do we have to pulse it back later?
You have to listen to your body. Your body tells you how to deal with that. So the correct answer is it depends.
Hmm.
It could be both.
Hmm.
I will pulse my oxidative therapy based on what I've done. Every single time I get on an airplane, I give myself some oxidative therapy.
Oh,
I take the antioxidative therapy every single day, never miss it.
okay.
And my mom does both every single day. She calls her oxidative therapy her magic water. My sister is on it pretty much every single day. The oxidative therapy just eliminates stuff that's not supposed to be in your body.
Hmm.
It puts out firefights.
Hmm.
It frees up resources for your body to reallocate where your body needs it.
What our body's doing is it's doing this slow burning fire.
Mm-hmm.
That's chronic. It could be low grade, but that's
Mm-hmm.
the inflammation in attempt because it's so brilliantly made to get rid of the pathogens.
Yeah. And
Never,
it does that from day one.
yeah, but it never fully wipes them out.
No,
They
it doesn't. And that's why
coexist.
we see the signs of aging. The signs of aging are because those mechanisms get less efficient over time. Our
Right?
DNA repair enzymes get less efficient. More gets through. That's why you see gray hair. That's why you see fine lines and wrinkles. If you get in front of that inflammation and oxidative stress, you're going to look a lot younger. Max is 70 years old. He doesn't look a day over 42.
Oh, that's so neat. We're not,
Every day at noon, he goes down to the town and they do outside basketball. He's running against 19 and 20-year-olds and he's beating them.
oh my gosh. So this is so the mission of Pretty Well. We're not just talking about improving wellness and healing. We're talking about anti-aging.
Oh, completely. Live
Yeah,
Longer Labs deals in time.
because
Everybody has money, everybody has resources. What people don't have is time.
right, it's a non-renewable resource.
Yep. You
Absolutely.
get 1,440 minutes a day, spend them wisely.
Yeah. Let's talk about, again, I'm not ready to leave the two-prong approach, and this is why we're going to do a series. Let's talk about that approach for autoimmunity. Autoimmunity is inflammation based. Alessio Fasano's theory of the three-legged stool of autoimmunity, which is leaky gut or intestinal hyperpermeability, along with uh, a genetic disposition along with a trigger or multiple triggers. So we look at that and that makes the perfect storm. And a type of inflammation that then the body is like, whoa, I got to start.
And what's manageable in that three-legged stool?
Right, exactly.
The
The gut
leaky gut.
and the triggers.
Yeah. So autoimmune disease is tough because that's when your body starts fighting itself.
Right.
And the immune system never gets the credit that it's due. The immune system, as long as it's working well, stays in the background. But as soon as it gets out of whack, all hell breaks loose. And
Hmm.
it's one of the most difficult conditions to manage because you can't get it back in whack if you don't get at the root cause.
Right.
If you try to manage symptoms with autoimmune disease, it's not going to be successful.
No. No.
And it's all based in inflammation. If you think about leaky gut, the smallest sections of the intestines, those blood vessels are only one cell thick. And when somebody eats a lot of sharp foods, I mean, the thing that sticks out of my mind because I absolutely love them and I would never stop eating them is tomatoes. Tomato skins are sharp. And if you don't chew this stuff enough and just a little bit of shard gets through to those smallest intestines, it's like the Titanic hitting an iceberg.
Ah, so good.
You are ripping a hole in your gut. And guess what happens when you rip a hole in your intestines? Things that should be inside leak. Now,
Right.
think about this because this really helps get an idea of what leaky gut really is. The human GI tract is technically outside your body. You have the entry, your mouth,
Mm-hmm.
and your exit, the other end,
Mm-hmm.
and everything's an enclosed tube.
Yeah.
So technically, everything that's in your mouth, your esophagus, your stomach, your large intestine, your small intestine, your colon, your rectum, and out the other end is outside your body.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is your body is regulating the good stuff that it wants to keep versus the bad stuff that it wants to stay away from.
Mm-hmm.
And your leaky gut provides an open pathway of unregulated seepage into the inside of your body. And
Yeah.
what does your body have? It has your immune system. It has your macrophages and all of those cellular mediators that when something is foreign, a xenobiotic, it attacks it with a vengeance because it doesn't know the dose or the potency of that. And it needs to mount the biggest response that it can to save the organism.
Right.
The response is always the same. And it's massive and it's immediate.
Mm-hmm.
That's why some people, when food poisoning hits, you get it coming out of both ways as fast as possible because what you're trying to do is eliminate really bad stuff as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you eat that, this has been in the fridge maybe a week longer than it should. I'm going to try it and eat it anyway. Then you get the slow burn. It's stimulus and response, stimulus and response. Dose makes the poison. If something has a massive dose, body needs to get rid of it. It's coming out of every orifice that it can manage.
Mm-hmm.
If the dose is something that's manageable by the immune system, you're going to feel like for a couple days, but then you're going to feel better, but you're not going to vomit. You're not going to have diarrhea and all that other kind of stuff. It's all based on the same mechanism, but your body is killing what's not supposed to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Leaky gut puts what's not supposed to be there like a dual lane highway
Yeah.
because your intestines are ripped open. And the inflammation is insidious in and of itself. Unchecked inflammation will kill humans very, very quickly because it gets worse and worse and worse.
So,
If you think about it, the top 6 health issues that humans face are all based in inflammation: heart disease, diabetes, cancer, cognitive diseases, things like Alzheimer's, dementia, arthritis, and infections. All of them are based in inflammation.
hmm.
Think about that.
So let's go to the antioxidative with C60. Is the dosing accurate? Sometimes just like you mentioned with vitamin C, it says, oh, take 250 milligrams, which is literally like a spit in the ocean, right?
Right.
The dosing, is that something that people need to dial in? Is the label pretty accurate? How do people know?
There's actually an excellent study on different doses with different responses in vivo, in vitro, and I'm happy to give everybody that study too. The dosing is getting dialed in very, very well. It's between 4 and 10 milligrams per kilogram. That C60 seems to be the sweet spot. And in 20 years, I haven't been able to find an upper level toxic dose, which is huge.
Well, and that's your expertise. You would be the person who would find
And I
that.
look on a regular basis.
Really interesting. Is there anything else you want to talk about in the two-pronged that we
It's
haven't mentioned?
there's a lot of different conditions that really make people's days miserable. And there are a lot of different approaches to improve your day that don't involve drugs. The best diet advice I ever got was actually from a lawyer. I was out for lunch with him before a deposition. And we were sitting there eating lunch, and the lawyer's like, "Oh, you're a toxicologist. Oh, yeah, dose makes the poison, blah, blah, blah." He says, "Well, you know what? With food, I've always gone by if you eat half and mostly plants, you're going to be all right." If you think about that, that's perfect advice because most humans eat themselves to death.
Yeah.
If you do eat mostly plants, Whole Foods, you
Mhm.
can't go wrong.
Right.
And then other things, it's like water. Tap water is only designed to be just good enough to not make you sick.
Say that again. That's powerful.
Tap water is only designed to be just good enough to not make you sick. The treatment plants are not designed to remove all of the complex things that are in today's water. Microplastics, small levels of pharmaceuticals, forever chemicals, PFOAs, PFASs, those types of things. And you should not be drinking just tap water.
Thank you.
At the very minimum, run it through a carbon filter on your fridge, for crying out loud.
Mm.
The one I recommend is zero water filter. You can get it anywhere, Amazon. We buy it by the case, and we run our tap water through that. They give you a total dissolved solids meter with it and says, we'll test it every once in a while. When it's above this number, replace your filter. It's a 5-stage filter. Takes out chlorine, takes out bromine, takes out heavy metals, takes out all of the dissolved solids in the water. And so that 5-stage filter actually generates water the way it's supposed to taste.
Mm.
And then when you get that, so I have a big urn on my counter, so room temperature, and I also have one in my fridge.
Yeah.
When you get that, you drink more water. And when you drink more water, you drink less sugared water and you get less empty calories. And that goes back to the food and that goes back to the eat half. And so it's all interlaced. It's all so connected. And most people think about bad stuff as exposure to one thing. It's never exposure to one thing, Lisa. Never.
Never. That goes back to what we said earlier. No one is able to study the compound effects of all the toxins we take in, food, water, air, all the stresses on our
And
body.
there's no good model to say how to make it additive or collective. People will argue that those models exist, but when it comes down to it, they suck.
No, they're not. You mentioned that the zero water filter. I use an Epic water filter, which
I
also
haven't heard of that one.
it has good research behind it. Check it
Mhm.
out for me and tell me what you think.
I mean, if money's not an object, put in a reverse osmosis system.
Yeah, here's my thinking on that. I've changed my thinking on reverse osmosis. Water is such a powerful solvent. It's pulling everything out, just like you had mentioned with the
Mhm. You
hyponatremia.
need the minerals.
Right, so it's over diluting our blood. So then we need to be mindful to add the minerals back, and who took time to do that? So I really like the idea of the zero and the epic, the
You
research.
make a note, look at that epic EPIC.
EPIC, it's third party research. You mentioned this is my favorite opposite of a vicious cycle. It's when good compounds the next good, the next good.
It's baby steps in cleaning up your spectrum of exposure.
Yeah.
Because if you try to change too much too soon, it always fails.
Yes, you get a filter that cleans up your water. Now your water tastes good, and you're like, oh, I kind of like my water now. I'm drinking more water. And then you're thinking, those Doritos just aren't very good for me. I'm going to stop eating those. And say I crave chips. Maybe I replace them with an organic tallow potato chip.
There's always a better option. And my 28-year-old daughter had this one app that my wife uses all the time now where you scan the barcodes and it tells you how good or bad it is based on what's in it and the additives. And there's a lot of things have changed around here because of that app.
Here's what I would strongly encourage our listeners. As you make these changes, right before you start, I will link one with the show notes. Do an initial symptom survey, quick initial symptom survey, because we never remember.
It helps to listen to your body if you know what you're listening for.
Exactly.
You got to manage what goes in the hole and you got to move the collective. That's the way to do it.
We didn't even touch on mitochondria. We all learned about the mitochondria as our energy factories.
Yep.
But
Powerhouse.
what we don't tend to talk about is that when we're under constant inflammation, they switch out of that into a protective mode, right?
Mhm.
You turn into I'm fighting to protect you, which takes the voltage for the energy. We feel that and we go to the doctor and the doctor says it's just normal aging. Well, it's not.
Don't accept that. Every time they say it's just normal aging, don't accept that. Do
Right.
not ever accept that. If it really comes down to it, my advice in that situation is find a new doctor.
Look, we know people who are 90 who have energy. It's different. It's that their mitochondria are not being so burdened by that chronic inflammation. And we feel the difference. So as we land the plane today, let's give our listeners the top three things you would recommend.
The top three things I would think of: low hanging fruit, make small steps. That's going to be change your water. Get off of tap water, find that water filter.
Mhm.
And the second thing is if you can restrict the junk food, eat half and mostly plants. And then the third thing is get ahead of inflammation, carbon 60. If you can't get carbon 60, bump up your vitamin C dose for a while. Find your glutathione bottle that you bought and use that up. These supplements, you bought them for a reason.
Yeah.
You were listening to your body at one time.
Yep.
You have to be on receive. If you're not on receive, you're not going to hear what your body is trying to tell you.
Then we have to add 4 to that because I am learning slowly that requires stillness. And
You call it meditation. You have to find a way to decrease the world's noise. How do I do it? I go swim a mile as often as I can because nobody can call you when you're in the pool. That's my grounding. That's my quiet.
top 3, we'll put our water filters, both of them. You check out Epic for me. I've been living on it for 2 years and I love it. Check it out. I'll put in the show notes. Guys, here are your top, 4 things.
And if you can do it, take your shoes and socks off and put your feet on the ground.
I appreciate you coming on. Say how people can reach you, and I will have it in the show notes too.
You can reach me at superiortoxicology.com. So
Okay.
that's easy. You can hit the contact form, send me an email, or if you dig enough, you'll find my cell phone number, and I answer that phone every single time I can. If you leave me a message, I'll get back to you. Sometimes there's a lot of messages to follow up on, but I will get back to you.
Wow, you are a rare jewel for sure. Most people don't do that today. So say your website again for us.
superiortoxicology.com.
Okay, and then you also have Dr. Joe for Hope, and it's the number 4, and that helps people.
And that sends people to a questionnaire about the drugs you're on, and you fill out that questionnaire. It comes to me. It goes through a paywall. It's not free. If you're on 5 or less drugs, it's like $150. If you're on 6 or more, it's $250. It's not a lot of money, but if it was free, then that's all I would ever be doing.
For sure. So many people are on a pharmaceutical to manage the symptoms caused by another pharmaceutical.
All the time. That's exactly how it starts.
Yeah, this is why the sick get sicker. And what about Instagram?
Just Joe Nieusma will get me on Instagram.
Okay, great. This has been fun.
It has. I enjoyed the conversation immensely.
Me too, Dr. Joe. And guys, thanks for joining us. We will be back next week. And until then, stay